I'm Ware, a doctoral researcher in classical philosophy at the University of Edinburgh. In this presentation, I'm excited to share with you one of the aspects of my work and how it applies to education. The intricate and global history of emotions offers a veritable treasure trove of theoretical insight into just how the emotions can be cultivated to motivate creative thinking. My research takes us back to ancient Greece, where the 4th century BC philosopher Plato wrote dialogues on a variety of social and political topics, often using his teacher Socrates as his main character and speaker. His extraordinary dialogue, the Symposium, offers us not only an historical background to our current understanding of the emotions, but contributes as well to contemporary debates into the role of the emotions in moral development, in shaping the character, and in education. Today, I'd like to talk with you about some of the groundbreaking research going on regarding Plato's theory of the emotions. In particular, his astonishing claim that love might be at the heart of moral decision-making. In the Symposium, Socrates shocks his audience by proclaiming that the god, Eros, love personified, isn't a god at all. Rather, love is a daemon, intermediary between gods and men. As he describes the activity and purpose of the daemon class, it begins to become clear the power that Plato attributes to this emotion. He writes, "For Eros is in the middle of both gods and men, and fills up the interval so that the whole cosmos itself has been bound together by it. For a god doesn't mingle with a human being, but through Eros occurs the whole connection and conversation of gods with men." Unquote. How can love bind together two such different realms, the mortal and the immortal, the human and the divine? As I interpret Plato, love does this by having as its object the creation of beauty. Love quickens the curiosity we have regarding the beautiful objects and art forms we encounter in the world, which inspire us and move us to find out more about them and to think more closely about what beauty itself might be. But the lover's interest in what's beautiful doesn't stop there, with a solely cognitive achievement. Instead, the lover wants to come to behold the beautiful as intimately as she can, which leads her to create beauty by becoming beautiful herself. If Plato is right about this, his message to posterity is that teachers should teach by beauty and by engaging the emotions. Philosophy, the love of wisdom, has a responsibility, therefore, not to sit alone in the study or retreat to the ivory tower, building edifices of purely rational construction, but to engage and connect with the world of art and culture to generate the virtue that those in pursuit of it have come to know, to love, and to become. It's commonly claimed in the scholarly literature that the object of love in the Symposium dialogue is beauty. However, I argue against this view and assert that love's object is the creative process of bringing to birth in beauty, to translate precisely the Platonic text. The framing characteristic of love, Socrates asserts, is that it is of something. Just as a father is father of a child, so too love is of something, and it desires that something. But again, Plato challenges the received wisdom of his day and claims that the object of love isn't beauty, but the creative activity of generating beauty, both in the individual and in the wider world. Thus, love is not relational, as emotional intentionality is standardly analyzed, but teleological, seeking its end. Love desires becoming, not being. The highest form of love, for Plato, is an instrument of creation. He sees in the human soul a self-generation principle, a compass of self-design, externally triggered by beauty. Crucially, however, instead of turning to point towards beauty, the compass turns to point to itself, to craft and design itself. In my research, I argue that this passage about love is a powerful insight into the role of the emotions in moral development. Emotions, including love, function both cognitively and actually in shaping individual character. Love in relation to the beauty of art and culture leads not only to knowledge of those subjects, but to an actual development of that virtue. The method Plato describes in the Symposium, however, is not what one would expect if versed in Aristotelian ethics, that is, Aristotle's popular theory that A person becomes good by imitating the good man of society until he does good things and is good naturally. Rather, on my reading, Plato is unique in claiming that love makes the lover best able to cultivate and bring into being new beauty in herself and in the perceptible world. The lover perfects herself not by blindly imitating beauty until she gets it right, but by generating beauty, by making her soul more beautiful. Now, we usually think of the emotions as getting in the way of making informed decisions, but curiosity is ultimately driven by desire. When we're struck by something beautiful, what do? We ask questions about it. We want to know what it is, who made it, where it came from. We want to find out more. This progression from one thing to its cause, to its context, gives us a better understanding of the world and a better understanding of the way its various pieces fit together. This idea of creative thinking led by desire, I argue, was a key feature of Plato's educational theory and derives from powerful insight into the human powers of motivation. You can't navigate with merely a highly polished rudder. You must start with the motor before navigation even begins. Once we have engaged the emotions, then we can deliver the directional standards of a particular curriculum. The educational process detailed in the symposium's Ladder of Love, being led from one beauty by a desire to know more about it, to come to see the beauty in other related things, and to see the beauty in the culture and laws and sciences that allow such beauty to flourish, results, in the best cases, in a self-transformation. For example, an initial love for singing Christmas carols in a primary school French classroom might lead to learning about French culture, the history of music, and a passion for the language. Pursued further in a travel study to Paris, and this love might lead to promenades along the Boulevard Haussmann, which inspire an interest in architecture and pave the way for a future career path. So what was initially love for a beautiful song has led to a literally life-altering process, led by love. Time spent in pursuit of beauty provides a way for the lover to become beautiful herself, shaped by the course of her life. Plato thus establishes that the lover will have an inwardly directed motivation to find ways to achieve this end. The capability to bring forth something of value from within oneself is the direct and natural result of being in contact with beauty, a truly unique creation. What's revolutionary here is that Plato is saying it's love that initiates the learning process that results in such a self-transformation. When Socrates claims at the end of his speech in the symposium that it's only in the contemplation of beauty that human life is worth living, it's therefore more than just his typical exhortation to knowledge, as the received view suggests. A purely cognitive engagement with the objects of a lesson is what we might expect from a classical thinker, writing during the reign of reason. In physics, architecture, mathematics, in the ancient Greek world, reason was being championed as what defines us as humans. Plato challenges all this in asserting we learn through love, use desire as an educational tool. Plato's portrayal of love in the symposium suggests that there's much to learn about how exactly the emotions ought to be involved in decision-making and in education. Do the emotions work alongside reason? Can we educate the emotions? And if so, what role ought engaging the emotions take within an educational curriculum? For Plato, the psychological mechanism for self-improvement was love in relation to something beautiful. Should we then bring beauty into the classroom in a Platonic effort to encourage creativity? My project gives an account of why sensory or image-based tools like art work the way they do. They grab the emotions, which in turn compel further investigation and indicate future lines of discussion. What we can take away from Plato's symposium dialogue is the following hypothesis. If education is to be truly transformative, making us responsible citizens, creative thinkers, it must begin with honing desire, employing those mechanisms which attract and which motivate a commitment to finding out more. What's exciting and challenging is that you never know where those discussions might lead.